Things out to the heads that know. Never been seen like jet black snow. When I'm on stage with the mic in my hand, got the vibe with the gang and the rest not know. Living in peace, use breath control, and if I'm in deep, let's tread that slow. Don't come with a next angle. Got more sides in the rectangle. All that past, just let that go. Turn off the lights, don't end that show. Look on dance floor, show gets live. Oh, I see pyros, I see smoke. Graveyard shift, that's set in stone. Stepping stones, I'm stepping slow. Come to the venue, bless then go. My DJs come to let them know.
This video is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Hey, welcome back, YouTube. This is Erick at Studio 182 Digital Pro, bringing to you live streaming Parabolic 33, Austin Oral. And back again, just like we haven't seen him last week, Dave Caney from Mr. and Mrs. Blue Collar Bodybuilding here with us for an open Q&A, all topics, anabolic, androgenic. We are going to talk about peptides and all sorts of things, guys. So you could go ahead, you could even start dropping your questions right now. And when we get onto these questions, we're going to have little discussions as we go, and of course then we'll have on-topic Q&As as well. So it's good to see people here in the chat early. We got 9 already jumping in early. Good to see you guys. Drop some questions or drop those comments in the chat. We'll say hi to people once we start getting a regular audience. That's fantastic. So Dave, how you been, brother? Haven't seen you in a week.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I actually did something out of my element today, which was it is noteworthy. I had a cheat meal, which is like a rarity for me, for sure. And it was one of those that just hit the spot. You ever have like a cheat meal and then you kind of regret it because it's like, it didn't hit the spot. Like that's my biggest fear, wasting a meal.
Right.
Yeah. But I went to, I just felt like a burger and fry, and I got it from, what is it, Texas Roadhouse, and then they had a side of grilled garlic shrimp. I was like, perfect, just what I need.
That sounds good. I didn't really eat dinner tonight. I didn't eat much today, to be honest. Gosh, I've been going crazy. Things have been busy, but you know what? I freaking love it. This is exciting, Dave. It's fun. I mean, you've built businesses. It's a good freaking time, but it's a ton of work, right? Holy shit. So, Austin, how you been, bro?
You got to get used to time sacrificing
management.
A lot of your time.
Sacrificing a lot of time and time management. Like I'm backing up on laundry and shit. I forget to eat half the time. All kinds of things. And, you know, like I told you before we got on cam, I was up till 3 a.m. last night, planted with my face straight on my laptop. I just couldn't get away from it, man. I'm like, I'm bored. I got to shower, start working on shit because I got to catch up. Man, this website, all that stuff is a lot of freaking work. Yeah. So, yeah, guys, before we get to Austin, I wanted to let you be aware that I am looking for currently I'm looking for a graphics designer who's interested in freelance work. For those of you that don't know what Studio Digital 182 Pro is actually doing, I might even just call it that. Studio 182 Digital Productions is what it stands for. Is what I do is I'm going to be like the primary editor for projects, consultations, as well as channel audits. We are now getting into podcast studio design, other types of professional studio design. We do sales of equipment, professional. Our capabilities are all the way up from concert level down to just your regular PA system or a booth at an expo, where we actually will get you right down to the screen printing. Of course, all these are for rentals as well. My new email is Erick at Studio 182 Pro Erick at studio182pro.com. That's my new email address, guys. Of course, it'll be in the ticker. Now I want to say what up to Austin, and I'm hearing a lot of feedback. So let me see who it is here. It might be Austin. Yeah, it
Okay.
is, Austin. If you can go into your settings and just hit reduce background noise, that would be great.
Yeah. All right, I'll do that. Let's see. I'll turn my speaker output down too. Got it. How's that?
That much
Check.
better. Oh, so
Cool.
much better. Holy cow.
Good.
Were you hearing that, Dave?
Better now. Yeah. Yeah.
No, not you. You were fine. I was hearing like it sounded like he had a big.
Yeah, he sounded a
fan
little
going on.
muffled. No, he's good on my
Alright.
end now.
Okay.
Nice.
Damn.
All right. Marty Groff.
All right.
Thank you, Marty. Yeah, send that over to me, man. And
Check.
keep in touch, brother, because it'll be a side gig for you. And as this thing grows, everybody will be making money. All right. So, yeah, Austin, what's up, man?
Hey, not much. Audio problems, I guess. But if you just let me know if it sounds bad. But so what's been up? I just let's see. I'm learning the routine of this too. You know, like having a structure and like putting in this is the block where you do this. This is the block where you do that. You know, it's yeah, it's different. You know, I want to be interacting here more because right now I just I'm glad at what I have to say. That stuff is just like that is my distraction and procrastination, like reading stuff, doing stuff, and you know, measuring blood work. All of that is automatic, but there's some things that you have to do here to share it, you know, because the habit was for the last 5 years I've been just doing it, you know. There's no
Right.
or anything that I was, you know, really putting on, maybe some forum posts at certain times, but I'm learning to walk in this space.
Yeah. What do you find is your toughest thing though? Like everyone's got a learning curve when they kind of take and they shift towards like expanding, you know, or kind of trying to get to a bigger audience with their, you know, their work. Is there something that was glaringly difficult for you that you're going to have to get through, or did it kind of come natural to you?
It does feel it comes natural to me, but sometimes I feel like I have a sign on my back, but I don't like to say that because, you know, you never have like, it just could have been early on stuff, you know, like when you're the guy injecting estradiol and that's what people know you as. Sometimes it comes across like, I'm telling you your way is bad. And this was the right way, you know, like my extremely controversial way is the only right way. You know, it's like sometimes it comes across that way, or probably it has, you know, so that has been something, but that's been going better now. You know, I think people have seen I've been around long enough now that I'm not looking to sell you snake oil. I do believe in this and that, you know, basically I'm not trying to tell you anyone's way is wrong.
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, you know, 9 out of 10 times it's the person on the other end. And I'll just unabashedly say that, you know, because we're in this world of the TikTok attention span, the world of just read the abstract, just read the title, just kind of hear what's being said, no real kind of sit back and soak things in. It doesn't happen, you know, and part of it's probably because of the abundance of knowledge and voices, I should say, voices out there where people get to pick and choose what they want to hear, and they search for what they want to hear, and they only hear what they want to hear. And if you're not spouting what they want to hear, they're ready to kind of just claw. You see it in like, even in my world, just trying to talk training, you know, and like just training something that I don't really have a strategy that I say I want as many people to do this strategy as possible. My goal is to find out, you know, if I'm working with Erick, it's going to be finding out what he's good at, what he's lacking at, and what he really doesn't need to waste his time on. So it's not like my answer. It's like solving a problem, you know, a puzzle problem. And so I wouldn't let it get to you because that's always going to happen. I don't see that really changing, you know, but you just got to find a way to make sure that your message is thorough. So when people do sit down and read it, they get a chance to actually absorb it and take it to the next person, or maybe add to your discussions. And I can see, I know exactly what you're saying, because that's a frustrating way to try to navigate being an educator in this realm. You know, because in a way, I never would have thought it, but I'm somewhat of an educator on every time I open my mouth on these discussions or trying to share something or teach and coach, you know?
Yeah. And there's probably a little bit of being the new guy phenomena too, you know, and, you know, because there are people who do that. There's like money to be made here. There's this is an industry. So, you know, you never really know who's doing what, who's trying to, you know, sell a gimmick because they just want to stand out or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's justifiable. Like that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there is a lot of fakes out there. And I don't blame people for putting up their guard. You know, it's just but no one's got the patience to just sit and listen anymore and just kind of soak in information and ponder to themselves and think, you know. I find it silly.
It's definitely a niche, and especially this space here that has become so saturated over the years. Like when Derek from More Plates got in, he was like one of the OGs of the space, and you know, there's no other reason in the world why he took off and got millions of subs, because like what he and Steve were doing were basically the same thing, but Derek was educating through entertainment, so it was very different. It was I binge watched that dude when I was getting into him. It was wild, and you know, that's something that the community as a whole, I see, has all kind of fallen into the same format of a bunch of dudes just sitting around like round table and talking. What I want to do is kind of try to bring a little bit of entertainment into it, have some fun laughs, and have people see that we're not just serious guys sitting around talking about serious shit, that we still have a good time because we're just like everybody else. And we're, as much as you know, Austin knows, compared to you guys, I'm like a freaking, you know, in the first grade. But when I talk to the average person, right, and so wherever it is, and we start talking hormones, they think I'm like the smartest guy in the freaking world. They're, you know, because they've never heard any of this shit. And I'm like, yeah, you think I know what I'm talking about? You talk to some of these guys that truly know what they're talking about, you know.
Well, look at people like John Meadows back in the day, you know, someone that we all, regardless of your training style or your thought process, he was worth a listen to, you know. And I really looked up to him. He's somebody I can definitely say I learned a bulk of my knowledge listening to him speak and thinking things through. But he used to have a little uncertainty. He would never put his opinion set in stone. He would say, you know, this is, I've come to learn. I've tried this. I've had some success with some people doing such and such, you know, route. And nowadays that's like a prime way to get someone to start smelling blood in the water, and they're going to pick at you in the comments. And I just don't see the John Meadows having an opportunity to succeed nowadays, you know? So I totally get what you're saying, Austin, but you keep doing what you're doing, man, and some people are going to appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. No, that means a lot. Like, really.
Another thing is awesome that you have stumbled upon something that nobody's really heard of, or it's not mainstream, and we're going to get into this later too, because as much as I know about this protocol, I know somebody who's interested in actually transitioning and trying it, and then he was at, you know, there's questions that I just didn't know, and we'll talk about this later about like how long do you got to wait for the testosterone to clear your system before you go ahead and start implementing estradiol. Don't mention it now, we're going to get into that later, but there's a lot of things about this protocol that are new. That what happens, we kind of talked about this on a phone call at one point, is people have indoctrinated themselves by being in this echo chamber of this is what works, this is how it's done, this is the mechanism behind it. So if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? Well, if there's another way that they're just not aware of, what they have done by indoctrinating themselves is they're not even willing to look outside at anything else. And if it is, it's stupid. Oh, that's ridiculous. I have a 4 SHBG and I've been putting on this. Well, we're not saying that you can't get huge with a good SHBG level. There's multiple pathways, but is there a better way in which you could maximize your gains and get even more gains, or bring back that honeymoon period if it's just HRT? And that's where time comes in. And as more and more people hear about it, try it, get their results, and then it becomes more popular.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why you're facing risk. Yeah, please do. Yeah, go ahead.
You remember the discussions back in the day? It would always be growth hormone timing. You know, there used to be a pretty good discussion, and there's of when to administer growth hormone, and specifically around windows of timing. And a lot of people would be very dogmatic in their answers, and so wasn't I. And I can give you the example of, I had to suck it up and find out that I was wrong. I used to be in the camp of, there's definitely applicable time windows to use them for different scenarios, different administration times for growth hormone. And at the end of the day, when you really look at it, I can look at like a intramuscular injection in the morning and say, I can definitely get some benefits for fasted cardio with this spike of growth hormone when I look at it on paper. But at the end of the day, it wasn't serving my whole day of what I was trying to get out of that compound. So long story short, sometimes things do justify on paper, but until you do them anecdotally, you don't really truly learn like, hey, it doesn't always add up. But you have to back things on paper, but try them yourselves. And sometimes it just doesn't add up. You have to go with left or right. But there used to be people that would say, well, it doesn't matter. On paper, it does such and such. I can do such and such. And we just kind of come to find out that the best thing to do is just take it at nighttime and just not think so much, not micromanage it. So that's one example of, people just kind of get stuck in their ways.
Exactly. Especially if something like, if it's a percentage point or two, you know, it's like, what are you fighting for? But, there's legitimate benefits to taking growth hormone at night too. Like, even if you are splitting those hairs, I think there's a case to be made with IGF-1, LR3, and growth hormone at night. I can't.
Yeah, we have some questions on that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Matter of fact, speaking of questions, why don't we grab a couple here from the chat, and then we'll just get this Q&A kicked off, guys, because we're not going to run another 2.5-hour marathon tonight. We'd like to keep down to about 75 minutes, guys. So yeah, just keep dropping those questions. Let's take this one here from Joshua. He needs recommendations on a power drill. Oh, I guess I shouldn't have flagged this one just for hanging curtains around the house. I always go with DeWalt, bro.
Yeah.
But if it's just something you want to hang around the house, you could easily go to Ryobi. They make some decent stuff for a real good price. What do you think, Dave? You look like a guy that does construction.
I mean, I like DeWalt. My father was a general contractor for 30 years, so I've kind of been growing up. If they were digging the cellar hole, I was working on that. If we were roofing, I'd be working with the contractors to do that. So I've been around a little bit, but the best all-around brand I come to find is, I used to like DeWalt, but Makita. I don't know if you ever heard of Makita brand.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, they're just like the only thing that makes them different is they're like bulletproof. You can't break the things, and the batteries last. They're quality, and they have this setup where you can get a basic drill, and then there's another one that you can buy as a kit that has a nice little but powerful impact. So you can really drive home a couple different scenarios where you'd use that. Money wise, if you're gonna buy one that lasts, Josh, and probably think of Makita, is my opinion.
I love Rigid too. I used to have a beautiful Rigid set, and then I pawned it at one point for drugs.
Milwaukee's making good stuff now too.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with. It was either growing up, it was DeWalt or Makita's.
Yeah. You ever see Project Farm? Shout out Project Farm on YouTube.
Nah.
He tests that. We're gonna test that. That's his thing.
Oh, he tests all the tools,
different brands. Yeah,
nice. That's cool.
Stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. We got a good one here on GH from Gumming Gill. Okay, do you think there is any benefit to past 20 IU's HGH, especially if you don't get water retention?
I would say that depends on where you stand on the growth factor recruitment of like paracrine, so like local growth hormone to MGF, IGF-1 in muscle cell activation, I think. And I remember trying to go down that before and getting into a spot I was over my head and never completing it. So, it was like undetermined. I don't know what it, and I've gone up that high, but I've never had it be that much lower than that either. I've kind of taken between 9 and 20, and I get good progress on it. So but I don't know the difference between 9 and 20. But
that's kind of where I was going to go. Everyone's kind of got a sweet spot. Have you come to notice that you could almost say like 6 to 12 is a sweet spot for anybody in that range.
Yeah.
No, I've never seen benefits past like 12, 15 unit range on anyone. And honestly, if you're not getting water retention, or you're not getting a little bit of like carpal tunnel sensation, or you're not kind of having your sleep interrupted, I'd be kind of questioning at 20 units the quality of your GH.
That's me. I'm one of those guys, but my IGF-1 and my serum GH are cranked through the roof.
Yeah.
Tested
Well, that's
too, but I just don't get side effects.
That's the other thing. If you were to take a look at, let's just say you took a bottle, 10 units, and you hit it intramuscular, and then an hour and a half, 2 hours, you got your growth hormone serum levels tested. You'll notice if you keep doing that experiment, there's a spot where there is diminishing returns. You're not just continuing to accumulate this linear HGH serum collecting higher and higher. And then there's a point where we can't even justify, we can't even clarify if there's, like you said, the turnover into IGF, and then where does the IGF-1 go from there?
Yeah.
And then are you truly checking everything too? Like, I know my answers sometimes suck, but it's like pump the brakes and make sure, like, okay, you might say, well, I'm not getting any negative side effects. Have you truly checked everything? Is your blood glucose in a good range as well? Can you truly say that sleep quality and depth are still intact? So I've played with every dosage. I think the highest I've been was 2 bottles a day, 20 for maybe a couple months. And I didn't see a difference from 8 to 10 units, difference from 8 to 10 all the way up to 20. So
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because somebody here, DNX 503's heard multiple guys say after a certain IU there's no more benefit. Now I know Austin has put it up over 20. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I'd agree. There's a certain point where I can just speak for myself and a few of my clients that have, decided they want to push the GH, and I'd say almost, again, there's like a rarity. There's 5% of people after 10 units that really can tell me for sure that they're getting a little extra, but it diminishes quick. So I wish it was that was the case, because we'd all just suck it up and buy a little extra GH if it didn't give us side effects and utilize a higher dose, but that doesn't seem to be the case.
At that point, I keep GH in, but the real star of the show for me is IGF-1 LR3, honestly. And I've never tried Increlex because I've never could get it, and if I could, I couldn't afford it. So
man, expensive, huh?
Yeah.
I'm on my first Increlex cycle right now.
That's right. You said that last week. What are you noticing?
Well, definitely in an interesting way, I sleep better on that than I do on growth hormone for some reason. Now,
wow.
What I did do it a little untraditional to what most people are talking about. So a lot of the times people say use it intramuscularly, and specifically for the either weak body parts you're trying to preserve in a cut, or something like, using it in an off-season stance and trying to really grow a specific muscle. I've been using just systemically sub-Q, and I read the pamphlet. Luckily, I know French pretty well, and some of the ChatGPT was able to help me out with what I couldn't. And I asked a buddy of mine, Kurt, I said, hey, this stuff's so expensive and it's hard to come by either way. Should I just be following the sub-Q administration? And so I've been doing that because he kind of agreed with me, just thinking simple about it. It is a systemic response. There's really not, unless you're injecting into the muscle cell, I'm not guaranteeing anything from intramuscular administration, correct?
Right.
So I figured systemic, except for a faster peak and maybe a better pump. But sensation wise, it feels like LR3. I get like a good pump, like a really good kind of insulin like pump from it.
Oh, that's cool.
But I've only been, this is what's today?
Thursday the 18th.
Thursday, so I'm only like 12 days on
19th.
it. Yeah, I'm only 12 days on it right now. So I've just filled up quick, that was for sure, because when I got back from the Arnold, I was down a little in weight. So I got my food and water back up to where it needed to be, and then put in the Increlex, and I'm just filling up even more and more. So I think I need a little more time to get a fair assessment.
How much are you taking?
Far, I'm doing 1 milligram a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think like the milligram per kilogram dose for children extrapolated out could be like between 1 to like as much as like 6 milligrams, I think, for like a 100 kilogram guy. I
Yeah.
think something like that.
Yeah. And I'm not going
But
to really afford that. So,
yeah,
or want
right.
to do that.
Right. I was kind of hoping you'd say that because you're the first person I actually have spoken to with Increlex experience who you've told me you've gotten a good response from IGF-1 LR3.
Mhm.
People, it's like one of those things that people love to hate.
Yeah.
IGF-1 LR3, and
Yeah.
I attribute a massive amount of my size progress to IGF-1 LR3 actually, because people are like, that's just what Tony Huge says when he wants to hawk his peptide website or something. But I got good effects from it, and I don't have a peptide website.
Tony Huge. Dr. Tony
Yeah.
Huge. That guy's freaking funny.
On paper, it makes sense why it could work, LR3 that is. And there are things you can do, I found, to make it even more effective.
Yeah. Well, I can say I can say LR3 has worked. I've had people that I've prepped time and time again that we have the struggles of losing their leg size or the girth on their legs from cardio, from Stairmaster, and we've tried everything, pulling back cardio, pulling back timing of cardio, making sure we're doing outside of like leg training windows. And you only get so much retention of that muscle. It flattens out over time. But we've used LR3 and I've had my best success holding on to people's body parts, especially myself, my quads, during a show prep with just simply LR3,
Yep.
administering on my leg days. And I'll even, since it's long acting, I kind of take it early in the day when I do my fasted cardio anyhow. And it's long acting enough to get me to my training window, and I feel it's worked just fine. So I can say it does work. It's not the miracle thing that everybody like Rich Piana used to talk about, how it was a miracle, the Increlex and LR3s and stuff as well. But there's an applicable use for sure. Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that I've seen, the harder you push it in a mass building phase, it's like you kind of get more out of it. Because, like the bottleneck I always run into, because when I'm hammering for size, I have to keep pushing calories up and up. And I don't know if other people notice this. Like there's a certain point where you've been in a surplus when you're not like, I'm trying to grow lean. That's not what your concern is. Your concern is take as much and grow as much and train as much and rest as much as possible. So you're trying to see how large of a surplus can you partition and still have it be just not garbage. And I haven't really run into the limit when I was doing that. And the LR3 was like a part of that. And the thing I always run into is 3 months onward, your postprandial blood glucose after a meal doesn't come down anymore. That's why I've had to go up to 230, 240 units of insulin a day, combined rapid and Lantus, But, there's no real strategy of like how much is Lantus and how much is rapid, because you're taking the rapid with every single meal at that point. So it's kind of like all the same. It doesn't matter. But because of that, I think that is possibly why it has the application and the power that it does, because IGF-1 increases insulin response and insulin sensitivity. So like, the bottleneck is you can't take in the nutrients anymore.
Yeah.
That's why Tren's so effective. And that's why I think IGF-1 of any form is so effective, and growth hormone too.
Well, before you move on, Austin, we got a question here. Since you were talking about LR3 from DNX, he said, since you mentioned LR3, if someone was getting poor response from, let's say, 10 IUs daily, would you just lower the GH and supplement in LR3 on top of it? Or something like, tesamorelin or ipamorelin?
I wouldn't worry about the secretagogues from my thing, because I've never actually done a real hardcore trial with them. I have, but like, I just went growth hormone and LR3 instead. but it depends what you mean by poor response. So
Yeah.
there's a lot to look into there. It could be the thing that I was just talking about, and that you're just too long gone into a mass building phase, and your sensitivity is wrecked, your hepatic glucose output is too high, your pancreas doesn't want to make insulin anymore. It could be a number of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people got to remember too, just because you put in an insulin or you put in an IGF, it's not like your body's not creating it on its own end still. It doesn't completely shut down. But those systems can slow down, like you say. Some of the toughest scenarios I come across with like LR3 is that people desensitize to it very quickly. And if you don't have the ability to pull out the LR3 and have your own system carry the load for 2 or 3 weeks so you can build a tolerance back up and then hopefully use that peptide again, you're going to quickly run into a wall and have a problem with progress.
I found a way to, for me, get it sustained where I do not lose sensitivity to IGF-1 LR3 anymore. And it wasn't even my protocol. It was Vigorous Steve who mentioned it. And it's in one of his ebooks. But low dose trenbolone with IGF-1 LR3 is the shit.
Now you're talking my language.
And it goes into what we were talking about last week too, Dave, because, we were talking about Tren and IGF-1. And, what we had kind of come to was that there's multiple plausible reasons that Tren increases the number of insulin-like growth factor 1 receptors. And that number of increased receptors is protection and overhead against desensitizing to IGF-1 LR3. And if you try it, you take IGF-1 LR3 in a mass phase while you're on Tren, it's like, it's another level higher. Yeah. There's another thing. So go ahead.
Well, especially when the whole idea of trenbolone itself is to not just be an anabolic compound, but its main use factor was not the anabolic factor of it. It was really just the nutrient uptake in those, in the availability for the receptors to be, able to take in nutrients as well, in the, insulin as well, and get that conversion. That's how it's used in practicality. That's how it's been used.
Yeah, because fat isn't your feed efficiency. You want it partitioned into muscle specifically.
Right.
So
it's very complementary. I can see that part where how complementary the Tren and IGF and the way that they're both working are going to be very complementary together.
Yep. And I mean, I love that cycle for me, just Tren with E2. I've done it, but I do good on Tren. Like, I don't really get many side effects from it. So, what was I going to say?
Tren, you don't get many side effects from it?
Oh, yeah. IGF-1 LR3 sensitivity is a whole other thing, but I believe I have noticed, and if anyone else has tried this, please give your feedback. Taking growth hormone at night, in particular, while you're using IGF-1 LR3, I think increases the duration which you can get effect from it. See, if anyone who's like an LR3 user who noticeably gets desensitized to it, try it with growth hormone specifically at night, or if you're already doing that, try it without growth hormone specifically at night and see if you notice a difference. Make like a journal too, try to make it scientific, talk about pumps at the gym and how many sets. So like do a specific warm-up set that you keep the same on each workout that isn't part of your workout. Do that and take some form of metric of pump or something every time. That way you have some sort of standardization.
Would you ever think there's an argument for specifically bringing in berberine during IGF-LR3 usage?
I don't know shit about berberine, actually. I've never tried it.
In the same idea of like metformin. So keeping something specifically when we're nutrient retentive and we're trying to pull in nutrients, even if it's a short period, we can utilize metformin or You know,
I
something like
have.
that.
Yeah, I got that from Steve too. But like using LR3 on 3 weeks or something like that, and then you pull insulin, you pull growth hormone, you pull LR3, and then you take metformin, and you resensitize everything to like all the incretins and stuff.
Mhm.
I've tried it, but I get diarrhea from metformin if I'm not taking it
Oh,
regularly.
okay.
So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
wasn't legendary, and also I don't need to do it because the effect that I get from LR3 on Tren or growth hormone at night is already crazy. So
Mhm. You know, it's a weird thing about metformin. Some people that do pharmaceutical get stomach issues, and then I got some people that do the Chinese generic have no problems. Same person.
is it the extended glucophage one or versus like instant or?
I'd have to check their notes to be honest. But my wife's one of them. She can get stomach issues, upset stomach, you know, same digestive issues you'd have with metformin, but for some reason she uses the generic stuff. No issues whatsoever. I have no idea why. But
Interesting.
that's a good question because I'm not too sure if the Chinese would be an XR or not. So maybe there's something there to it. I'm going to write
Is
that
it a
down. 'Cause I'm
tablet, like a
curious.
pressed pill?
Yeah.
You can tell by how they break if they're like time release. If it just breaks and crumbles a little, like it looks chalky, that's a regular one. If it breaks and it looks like a piece of plastic, you
Yeah.
know,
Coating.
that's XR. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, before we move on, and while Dave's writing that down,
Frenemy in the chat.
where is he? I didn't pull up the chat. Let me take a look. Frenemy, I think maybe he's on your end, Dave. Maybe not. Where is he?
Yeah, I'm on our channel.
Yeah, in the live comments. Yeah, Tren,
Yeah,
all
I'm not
this
saying
Tren talk giving me the itch, he says.
Oh, Trenemy, if that is you, bro, hit me up, please, man. You'll be a rock star on this show. I want to reach out to you and get you on here, brother. If you are the real Trenemy,
I
We
you
also
know
had
who you are.
we also had a comment way back that said Austin's hot.
Yeah, we know that. Yeah, I don't even want to mention
It's
the other
one of
part.
my
But
secret-
before we move on from IGF-1 and all that, we have a couple of quick questions here I want to get to. Wow, swallowed wrong. All right. From DNX again, I know IGF-1 testing isn't the definitive metric on how effective GH is, but if someone was hitting 600 on 3 IUs daily, for example, would there be a need to increase the doses further? I know what Todd Lee would say.
I mean, I'd say no. I mean, if I'm assuming you're talking IGF-1 at
Yeah.
600 for 3.
That's what I'm assuming, yeah.
I mean, that's pretty good for 3. What do you guys think? I mean, that's pretty decent.
That's really high.
I was going to
yeah.
say, that's like a crazy high for 3 IUs.
I mean, I've watched like people who track their stuff regularly and religiously, like Paul Barnett or Todd Lee will post stuff on their IGF-1 and do their blood work, and I don't think they get over like 500 or 400 on any dose, right?
Mhm.
That's what most people get.
Yeah, and like Chase, when he was doing those mega dose protocols and experiments, I don't think he got past 250 or something like that. Just for some reason had a very low IGF-1.
Tren would explain it if he was on Tren. I don't know if he was using Tren.
I believe it wasn't at that time he was using Tren. I think that was just EQ and high dose test. I could be wrong.
He was using Tren. I remember that. He
At the
was
time
at
of
some
using-
point. At some point.
I'm going to text him and ask him actually.
Because you can tell him what I found out and see what he thinks.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know chronically, I know anyhow, he's always had, some people have that, like even Steve's mentioned, like his IGF-1 never really skyrockets on many high-end doses of growth hormone anyhow. Some people could just be like that, or it could be Tren metabolite moving around.
We've got another guy here we're going to talk about and we're going to talk with, but he also has another data point of Tren Tren in everyone I've seen fully prevents the IGF-1 increase that you would get. Some people seem to probably not get it anyway, because I know Paul doesn't run Tren like year round or anything like that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like
Now, is there any way to test if outside of a biopsy, Austin, if it is getting into the muscle cells.
Okay,
And that's
I'm
why
glad
you're
you
not
asked
detecting
this.
it.
Glad you asked, because this is okay. So I'm getting like woo-woo level here. But I've thought about in a chat GPT sesh about a possible way to measure non-genomic versus genomic response to androgens, like to see which ones do what. It could theoretically be adopted to do this also, because you do a blood restriction test, and then you get a pulse ox emitter from like your finger, like a $20 thing. And this could allow everybody to do this too, like at home. But you get a pulse ox, you measure the perfusion change after the blood restriction test, and the time, if it is within like 10 minutes to 20 minutes, you know it's non-genomic in action.
Right.
So that could be a way to theoretically do it in real time. Is it going to work? I don't know. But you could do the same thing with IGF-1 LR3. Oh, wait, IGF-1 sensitivity with Tren. So you could do a blood restriction test off Tren and measure the difference in the change, and then add the Tren in, measure the change, add in a control, measure the change, like nandrolone or something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but you wouldn't get a concentration level. You would just get a yes or no in the cell,
right?
Correct? Like if you're getting IGF-1
right.
in the cell or not.
No, you wouldn't know. You would just get a proxy, which would be the increased perfusion that you would get from the increased uptake and the vasodilation that you see with it.
And chances are most of us with IGF-1, exogenous or not, is probably going to have some IGF-1 in our cells anyways. So it's probably going to be present. I wish there was a way to narrow it even further to a concentration. But like you say, there's nothing out there.
Well, that would in a way do it. It's not telling you, it's not like testing for IGF-1 LR3. It's measuring if, or sorry, I keep saying that. It's not measuring for directly increased IGF-1 receptors. It's measuring, is there an increase in perfusion when you would expect the increase in the receptors? So on trend. And then off trend, is there a difference? It's really, like I said, I'm going woo-woo here.
Yeah. Okay. I got you. I missed that second part. Okay.
Yeah. So you could, the main reason I thought about it with measuring genomic versus non-genomic response to androgens, because say you take a pre-workout oral and you measure the perfusion with the blood restricted, measure it without the blood restricted, and does it change after 10 minutes or 20 minutes? Then you know it's non-genomic. Does it change after only a couple hours? It could be genomic only, basically. I need a programmer to make some like souped up pulse oxes, basically. Damien, shout out.
Hey, Austin, I just wanted to say we're still getting some echoes from you. I'm wondering if it's my headset maybe, or
I'm getting a headset. This will work.
Yeah, sometimes you can turn the pickup down and pull the mic closer.
Yeah, I know that we've had that problem when I was on H4M. There was a couple times it came through
I'm
my
hovering
headset.
over my speakers on my laptop. That's why.
Yeah,
I was wondering if maybe it wasn't your primary mic.
No, it is.
Yeah, no big deal. It's barely there.
No, it's not a big deal.
Yeah,
it just helps when we're doing the short content. But I clean the audio up, but there's only so much you can do.
Oh, all right. How's this?
That's your mic. It was your primary mic.
Oh my God, that
sucks. All right, we still got half the show, not half the show, but we still got a good part of the show left. All right, I want to take this one from. Let's see. Hold on here. Let's take this last one on IGF-1 and we'll burn through it here. For F4. I've been trying to figure out how to say this dude's name for a while now. I'm gonna say friend for life, maybe.
It used to be
Was
Verb.
Oh, Verb. Hey, copied from Y. IGF-1 drops on Tren. Does Tren affect on IGF-1 levels in a dose-dependent fashion, or is it as simple as being in your system?
This is where I got to address everybody out there, everyone in the audience. I'm trying to do something new where you know how we talk in Discord and all that stuff about this, about that? I want to have on here experiments like that people run, and you check in with each other. We check in with each other, which I'm not there that much anymore. What experiment is doing what? So as to that question, I haven't tested that. The serum level changing, or the serum level or the dose of Tren mattering in terms of the IGF-1 reduction effect. Because I'm only like one person, I can only test so many things at a time. But I would love to have like a different guest on one at a time who, you know, you come on to say what the experiment's going to be, and then we do a follow-up, another follow-up.
I have somebody that's going to be coming on for that. Actually, it's going to be fucking amazing.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
so
Yeah, I'll be
it's
talking to him this weekend.
Oh, cool. And you know, nobody's going to care who it is. Like, you don't have to have 100K followers to be an interesting guest if you're doing that. It's just so that
he's going to be awesome, bro. He's going to be awesome.
Yeah, but like, let's say I get somebody who doesn't even have an Instagram from a forum. They're doing that experiment. It doesn't matter. Somebody's coming because they want the data, you know, they want the experience. It just so happens that usually it's only like the high level guys who are regimented, disciplined enough to do that. But conceivably, anybody can do it. You know, if you're talking about it in a forum, you can come talk about it here and share it, you know.
Would it be what, this is just completely random, I don't want to spend much time on it, but I'd imagine you'd want to make sure in that experiment that if you're trying to correlate how Tren affects the IGF-1 levels, you'd want to be escalating doses over a period of time with trenbolone. You'd have to make sure that it's an increment that's a fair bump to follow on the chart. But also, I'd imagine you're going to want to do frequent administrations of specifically ACE, so you can just see quick reports back of the blood serum concentration. You can get quicker spikes if you require it with a quick dose change. Like, so you could go from 50, even though this is a ridiculous number, 50 a day to 100 a day. You'd be able to just not be confused on blood serum concentration levels. That'd go very quickly. You'd be able to follow it very directly. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I'm thinking now, because of that, I kind of almost want to reverse it, because if you go on Tren and increase the dose and watch IGF-1 drop, you won't be able to separate what is duration versus what is serum level.
Sure.
Like, so if you go in reverse, though, let's say you do 100 a day down to 50, just 50 a day, you know, then you know it's not duration related, because if it decreased, possibly.
And then you'd want to keep testosterone levels consistent and not changing, so that way you're not getting an aromatization that changes also the IGF-1.
Which means you'd want to do the SHBG protocol with an E2.
Right. Yeah.
No, I'm joking, but it does.
Hey, from Dave Perez here, he's going to be joining us next week. He's got some great data to share. He is saying here that he just started GH about 5 weeks ago, and he's interested to see what his IGF comes back at. He just did his labs this week, actually, so he should have those back by next Thursday, I would imagine, right?
The other thing Dave said last week is the surplus end of this too. Like, you're not going to get a good IGF-1 unless you're in a surplus too.
Yeah.
And why is that, Austin?
Insulin needs to be present at the same time to create IGF-1 from growth hormone.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It's like why keto guys will have, like, they talk like Dr. Erick Berg or something, like, you get sky high growth hormone levels when you fast. So people think fasting is going to be anabolic, you know, in like normie world, but you need insulin present for it to matter, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good shit. Learn something every freaking day. I truly do, especially when it comes to this space. Last one here that we got flagged here, and then we can get to the questions that we received in advance. We got quite a few. I doubt we'll get to them all, but let's take a look here from Gambling Law. How about using a rower for cardio to keep leg size?
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with that. Yeah, I'm cool with that. I mean, gotta make sure that you can keep enough consistency of intensity too. Like, some people can I've seen some people just make the rower their bitch. So it's like, hopefully you can make it challenging enough. But as long as you're not getting back pumps, and as long as we're actually not doing the same thing to the upper body, what we're trying to avoid in the lower body, you can deplete your back. You can deplete, glucose is going to deplete evenly quite a bit, but you do notice it in the body parts that are being worked quite a bit. I mean, I could just tell you, it doesn't really matter what it says on paper. People do enough stairs, they're going to deplete their legs in a prep, and they're going to be noticeable. Or they get sick and they get behind, and it's really hard to fill back out. Once you're behind, it's tough. But I think the answer for trying to retain size and picking your cardio selection is really just what's going to get the heart rate variance that we're looking for. But, the heart rate increase, but also just like the least amount of output on the muscle, and, trying to get the least amount of depleting of our glycogen storage.
So I got a question for you then in that case. Do you think the heart rate is much of a factor between the deficit, or just is it the deficit size that you get?
I'd say, I think the heart rate thing, I think people get a little too caught up with like checking their heart rate on cardio and saying they have to be in this perfect zone. I actually tell people to kind of avoid checking the heart rate to a point. Like, we'll check it once in a while, but I don't need you looking 30 different times
Right.
On a 30-minute session or in an hour cardio session. I actually have the most old school approach to it. I tell people, if you were to have a conversation with me and Austin's on cardio, if you're not having to gasp for breath every 4 words and break up your sentence and keep up with your breathing, you're really not doing much. If you could just talk to me like we're sitting there on the park bench, the cardio is not intense enough. So these factors kind of come in first, that biofeedback, because then I have people that can do 160, crazy high with their heart rate, and it seems to be a breeze. They're so adapted to it too.
Yeah.
So I need to get that first response before I worry about a number.
What's up, Ryan?
Hey, man.
Ryan.
Go H4M in the house.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So if I was in the right place if you weren't finished, I was going to give my thought and ask you a question actually on that.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. What about people who are able to do steps all day? Like, and what about that? I don't know if you've tried that or leveraged that.
Well, I mean, I'm going to quickly find out on their feedback. Like, my weekly check-ins are going to tell me if I'm effective when I'm pushing and pulling the lever of cardio, pretty quickly. I try to find something that's challenging for them too. And I try to do it I haven't had that scenario yet where I had to pull someone off of a machine that was too easy for them. But I've had to make sure that I remind people to start at a lower baseline. People get so amped up for their prep.
Oh, yeah.
They go on the treadmill, they put it up to 15, put it at 4 miles an hour, and they hold on for dear life. And it's like, we're already tapped out. Like, where am I going to go when you get used to this in 3 weeks?
Yeah.
But yeah, I've heard one story about somebody that can just do stairs. We were talking about it on a different podcast, that could just do stairs at a ridiculous rate. Like, I think it was level 9, and they just could do it for the whole life.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
I hate the stairs, man.
Yeah,
I really don't like them at all.
My cardio, the last 3 cuts I've done, has been just steps exclusively. So I didn't even do any cardio aside from at certain points I tried it for the experiment of it. But for me, I think there is an advantage potentially to having as low of intensity cardio as possible, but therefore you're going to have to do it a lot longer if you're trying to actually rack up a deficit from your energy expenditure, but I was in a place where I was able to burn 3.8 pounds per week, excluding the first 4 weeks. So this is week 8. I was still losing 4 pounds per week at 4,200 calories. So my it's just because my metabolism had sped up over much. And so I was just doing walking, because I had a job where I was in sales. I worked for Creed. So I would just, pass out blotter cards of the fragrance and, you know, walk around the entire mall and rack up like 23,000 steps a day over the course of like 6 hours or 8 hours.
Right.
So perfectly low intensity, perfectly spaced out. But if you're doing a cardio session for burning fat, you do have to crank up the intensity to get a meaningful amount of energy out.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't be afraid as a coach to tell people what you want in cardio. Like, I don't know why coaches just write cardio. Like, I tell people what I want. You know, like, I'll give you an example. Is it's not actually that they were good at stairs. They were terrible at stairs. One of my clients, it was a guy that I had coach for a while, and he was a power lifter. And anyways, we did have to bring his weight down for his weight class, and had to get him down a little bit anyhow. And they don't like dieting, power lifters. Everybody knows that. I don't care what they say. They don't like to diet. So we would have to spend some calories and do a little balance. But he was a janitor, so walking around, his step count was 25,000, 30,000 a day, easy. So putting him on a low intensity, steady state treadmill was just kind of a joke. It wasn't really even, the body was so used to that motion, I wasn't getting what I wanted out of it. So we started with the bike. He got pretty adapted to that, and then we went right to the stairs, and it was like a fresh stimulus every time. And that started to get the body weight to, so that way when we would do 30 minutes of cardio, we were getting way more juice squeezed out of the Stairmaster than we were the treadmill. So I guess I've seen it the other way around, not specifically stairs. And one other quick trick for coaches is you should be tracking their cardio, not just by yeses and nos. And like, if you have a chart that people have a daily tracker, I have one. Everyone's got a different makeup. Some people have 5 different factors that they have to track every day. Some people have 20. Like, there's some people have an immense amount. But where it says cardio, it's not just yes or no, or 40 minutes or 20 minutes or AM, PM. I want to know what you did at what level and log your time. So that way I can see progression over time, or I can say, hey, I'm noticing we're not getting the same results out of cardio that I feel we should. I think it's time for you, Austin, to step up to level 6 from the 4.5 you're at, and just make that adjustment for me. No more time, no added time. Just give me a higher intensity, and we'll run that, and we'll see if we get a change.
Yeah.
So sounds like extra work or little things that might not make a big difference. They do. They absolutely do. Yeah.
Even to see if you're going in the right direction, or is, like you said, if some change happens, then you know what you can do later, you know, like to rely on.
Because a basic coaching mistake, and I'm sure both of you could picture this, is what happens when you feel the cardio is not working at whatever rate. You increase the time. Well, that's not the only lever we have. Like, you can go ahead and try a different intensity. You could try maybe fasted, or maybe taking them off of fasted because they can't get up and get their ass in gear in the morning and really put the intensity down that they need. You know, maybe let's say I have Erick running 20 minutes in the morning, and he's just not a morning dude. It's just, you know, you got to waste an hour waking up with coffee to get 20 minutes.
I always thought that fasted, didn't mean to interrupt you, Dave. I always thought that fasted cardio was far more effective than eating a meal and then going and doing cardio.
I do too.
Both ways. Yeah, I do also for raw fat loss, but then I get way hungrier after. Like, if I do fasted cardio, I'm way.
Well, what if you were to do your fasted cardio, then eat a prepped meal before you do your training afterwards?
I do. But like, still, like, I notice, like, that same meal, I need a larger amount of calories that offsets that amount of deficit that I racked up with the cardio, potentially. Like, it's just like I become so ravenously hungry that whole rest of that day. So that fair thing is like, I am always in deficit levels that you wouldn't ever want to put somebody on, because you never would want to be in that spot in the first place, ideally. Like, my deficits are too extreme, like too fast of weight loss, and that's kind of when your appetite does go up. So you know, but yes, I do think that fasted cardio is more effective.
Yeah, and there's a part of that where you have to nicely say, Too bad, so sad, Austin. You're gonna have to get it done. You're not getting a bigger meal. I need what I need out of you. So
Yeah.
be it. Maybe
Yeah.
sometimes that's a scenario. But here's
Oh,
the
yeah.
other thing. The other thing too, even if fasted cardio wasn't more effective in the morning for burning fat versus calories, there's a difference, and of where you're pulling that energy store from. Um, if doing fasted cardio allows me not to steal nutrients post workout that I want refilled in the body, and it gets a better recovery aspect and it's noticeable, we're going to go that route. Even if it's not making Eric hit the scale with better progress week by week, it might be saying, hey, but I do get better recovery after my training. I get my meal, I'm out of the fight and flight mode, I'm not still jacked up from another hour of cardio after my training. And I'm still ravenously hungry. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes there's many reasons to look at why you're doing something. It's not always the number on the paper, you know.
For me,
I've been ravenous hungry lately. I've been kicking up my androgens because I'm looking forward to getting back to the gym next week.
oh,
2 successful epidurals, man. I'm feeling freaking fantastic. Hopefully it lasts till somewhere in the summertime, so I'm not dying all the time. So we got a couple more questions here. They keep coming in, guys. Thanks for the question. I want to take the first one here that came from Dave Perez here. This goes back to what he was. This isn't Dave Perez. I'm sorry. Luke's bodybuilding. What would that change if you're using exogenous insulin? So it must have been from when we were talking about the how high you can get your IGF-1 when you're and getting the nutrient partitioning with
potentially,
HGH.
I would assume, because I mean, whenever my IGF-1s are high, I get the highest IGF-1 values among them that I see among people, and those are at the times I'm using 250 units of insulin a day. So
Agreed.
Okay. And the last one here we got in the chat here from No Waker. Any opinions, experience with yohimbine? I saw people praising it for fasted cardio workouts. Personally, and for my life specifically, it's a good energy booster for life, survival, not workout. I have no experience with that whatsoever.
I used to take it like every single day because I just liked it. But I would use the bark, like the yohimbine bark extract.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's got some other perks to it also. But
Yeah.
I don't know if yohimbine is the same, but I've used rowolsine, and it isn't the same as the yohimbine bark. So I don't know about pure yohimbine.
Yeah, ralsine and yohimbine themselves should be nearly similar, but the bark I think is just a stronger extract, or more concentrated way to derive, pull it from the tree itself.
I think there's some like an entourage effect. Like there could be some other chemicals that are active in it too, possibly in the plant version, maybe. I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah, that's not weird. I've had many people. Jackie loves yohimbine way more than any other beta 2 agonist, so she prefers that over Clen. Some people just react better with it, where I've had some people that kind of feel sickly from yohimbine, or however you pronounce it. I call it yohimbine. But the like Paul, for example, he just can't handle yohimbine. It just doesn't do well for him. I'm sure he gets results for it, but
Rowolsine does that for me. I feel like more nauseous on that one.
it hits hard. Yeah. And a little goes a long way. It's funny. I start most people at like 2.5 milligrams.
Oh, man.
And I see a lot of people starting at 5 and 10. And it's like, I don't know how you go from being not taking it for months and then you jump right to 5 or 10.
Dude, I take 500 micrograms.
Yeah, Jackie says her sweet spot's 5. She starts because she loves the yohimbine.
I take half a milligram.
Hi, Jackie.
Wow.
Yeah, it messes with me.
Tell Eric I said hi and happy anniversary.
He said happy.
Thank you very much. Yeah, been a long time. 23 years.
Yeah, I think you're. If you got a good reaction to it, it's very effective. Yeah, I like yohimbine. I'm old school. I like the ECY stacks, and they do pretty well.
Yeah.
All right. They just keep coming in. No waker here. But what effects are you and your people getting from it? He's asking from yohimbine, if you want to call it that. I don't even know. You're probably right, and I'm probably wrong. And do you take it once or multiple times a day, rather?
I was taking it multiple times a day, but I mean, it used to be what was prescribed before Viagra was the thing. So that is just one effect that you can get from it.
Okay. I think we're going to go to get a couple of questions that we have in advance once we go ahead and pull these up.
There's E2 questions and the
is there? I might be missing a couple. They're going so fast. All right. Where was it?
See, there's the number 5, and then there's I wanted to do the GLP-1 also.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the pre-questions. I was looking in the chat. I'm sorry. My bad.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So number 5 you want to hit?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's do that. I'm going to put this in the chat as well, and I'm going to read it before I do that. Okay. Wouldn't a higher dose of injectable E2 be required with Primo compared to DHB, given that Primo has a stronger suppression effect on estradiol levels?
So no, you don't actually, because Primo doesn't affect E2 at all. It only affects how testosterone aromatizes. So you don't need a different dose of E2 on this protocol at all, actually, because once you get your sweet spot of E2, you don't ever have to change it again. Primo, so if you take primobolan, it lowers estrogen because it is stopping testosterone from converting into estrogen. But if you take dihydroboldenone and estradiol, there's nothing to stop the conversion of anyway. Or primobolan with estradiol, there's no conversion or aromatization to stop and interrupt. So you could take Primo, letrozole, aromasin, and estradiol, and your estradiol dose won't have to change even with letrozole and aromasin in the mix. It doesn't matter. Yes, I've tried.
Yeah, you're already skipping that. You're already skipping that step. You know, if you're putting basically you're putting in the E2 exogenously, you don't have to worry about what's converting E2 anyhow. You know, you're already kind of skipping that process, just like not worrying about IGF-1 levels when we're putting it in exogenously versus hoping our growth hormone synthesized into IGF-1. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And what was the thing I was going to say? Some people get a different multiplier. So like some people will just have a higher level of E2 in their bloods for a given dose, but it stays consistent as you escalate the dose or don't or lower it. So like let's say 2 milligrams gives you 40, 3 milligrams will give you 60 in all the cases I've seen anyway.
Okay, I want to move on here to one of Gary's questions: bodybuilding Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because that's all the time he's got, really. I know that that's not his real name, but I love bodybuilding Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's 3 more days than I do, Gary. So he is considering trying the SHBG protocol since his last labs came back at 5 for his SHBG. And how do you go about switching from a test deca-based protocol to an E2 SHB protocol? Do you have to wait for the test to clear your body, etc.?
Well, first thing you do is you pick up and you dial this guy. But no, you don't have to. But if you're coming from like a high estradiol state, you could just be more cautious and delay it by some time. But the main thing you need to do is kind of focus on making it to a specific point to measure. Otherwise, the most common issue with my protocol is that people don't get their right E2 dose and they stop after like a month or 2. And not 2, actually. If they get past the first month, they kind of get their blood work and they know their dose. But you got to just get to that 4-week mark without changing your dose of E2. And if you change it, it just means like longer to go before getting
Oh
that.
wow,
first
are you
injection.
seeing that? His last E2 was 61.
Depending on dose of testosterone, it depends. That's not super high, but yeah, it depends on the dose. But you could basically just switch. That's what I do for most people is just, let's say you're on this and this, you just immediately start with your next shot. The trick is you got to get to that save window point, which is like the week 3, week 4 mark of being on that steady dose of estradiol. And then you get the lab, and then you find the level, and then you adjust.
Yeah, and he said 115 on a non-ultra sensitive, which they're so hard to compare. I'd throw it out the window.
Yeah.
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 Always ultra sensitive for the couple dollars, just always. And it's always going to be relevant to us men that are going to be running in that lower range. Most of the time, we're going to want to be accurate down towards that lower range. Once you're already past 100, you're probably going to be addressing it one way or another, even if it's off 10% or not, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Can I mention one quick thing about that yohimbine? Tanya made a great point too.
Yeah.
Like, you know, a lot of us will put in, you know, our morning fasted cardio stacks, the old fashioned ECY, ephedrine, caffeine, yohimbine. But just saying, if you were to start with just like yohimbine and caffeine, putting in the L-theanine, like she mentions, really kind of smooths out the edges on those stimulant feelings quite a bit, where you're not losing any effect on the beta 2 that you're looking for with yohimbine, you know, or clenbuterol at the time, where I've had some people get a little too much out of those stimulants, let's say, where we kind of have to throw in like a nebivolol just to kind of calm them down on the day where their heart rate's going a little too high. But the L-theanine can kind of really clean off those edges, for a lack of a better expression, but it just kind of smooths out that sensation. You ever taken a stim in the morning and it's just too much? Some mornings it's just like, oh, this is a little rough. I'm a little light bodied. I know you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, Austin. But sometimes you can imagine, especially in the first time you're putting it down. Say you got your cardio going on a prep, you got your diets in line, you made 3, 4, 5 weeks of progress, and it's time to turn the heat up. You know, and you're thinking, all right, yohimbine and some caffeine, maybe you'll start putting in some clen or whatever down the road. It can be a little rough to adjust. I'm sensitive myself to stimulants, and I'm just not a fan of being too wired. So that's I do that every morning with my caffeine. It's L-theanine, and it's just I get up here, I get right in my spot here. I can be laser focused but awake. It's very nice. So I suggest people try a little L-theanine if you don't like being too light-bodied and stimmed out.
You can also, there's a new drug for blood pressure that I'm wanting to at least make people aware of, because I don't see it ever talked about. But when we are on androgens, blood pressure is typically raised by adrenergic state or water retention. I don't think blood volume is a way to go about it, basically. Like, I don't know if that's what my first choice is anymore. And so instead I go doxazosin, which is an alpha-1 antagonist. And alpha-1 is not the same alpha-2 effect that you want out of yohimbine. Alpha-1 is just the squeeze, the vasoconstriction of it. So you could actually potentially preserve your blood flow, get better results from the yohimbine, control your blood pressure, and offset the side effects all in one med. And yeah, it's called doxazosin. It's a alpha-1 antagonist. And yeah, because the way yohimbine works is by blocking alpha-2, which takes the brakes off of the catecholamine release, which agonizes the beta-1, 2, and 3 receptors from the catecholamines it results in. And with doxazosin, it's the first time I've ever had a controlled blood pressure in my life, actually. Like, my blood pressure since I was 19, well before androgens, was 170 over 100, like that, basically every day. And on multiple meds, like, I couldn't control it without that. Add the doxazosin in, good to go. It's crazy.
And I'm sorry, did you say that's a ACE, an ARB, or a diuretic?
It's an alpha 1 blocker. So
okay.
what it does is it blocks the effects of adrenaline, catecholamines in smooth muscle of blood vessels. So it stops the squeeze, because a lot of people, they think they got high blood pressure, and they're treating it like they're an old person to reduce the blood volume, so the blood volume presses against the blood vessels less hard. But a lot of it in these young guys is adrenergic squeeze. So the blood vessels want your blood pressure to be that high, so you lower the blood volume, it just compensates for it. And androgens do that.
Yeah, and thanks, Peter. I kept calling yohimbine a beta agonist. It's alpha antagonist. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I always mix those up.
Yeah, it's so confusing because the alpha and the beta are related, and then there's 1 and 2 of each. So
yeah, no, I wanted to clear myself because I was talking about how to alleviate something with nabivital. It'd be a little silly in the yohimbine sense, but works for clenbuterol. But that's what I was just saying. L-theanine is something that can chill you out without losing the effectiveness that we're looking for.
Yeah,
in the fat burner itself.
Right. Right. And then with the doxazosin, you wouldn't either too, which is a rare thing because it's an alpha. But
is that commonly prescribed though? I mean, I've never honestly even heard of that one.
It's super old school, so it was, but doctors don't like to prescribe it anymore because of the post-orthostatic hypotension. When you start it, within the first 2 days, some people get lightheaded when they stand up for the first time.
Okay.
Because what happens when you stand up, your blood vessels very quickly react and squeeze to keep blood going to your brain. But this is blocking the effects of adrenaline to do that. So it doesn't happen though. And if you kind of make it outside of that 1 day, 2 day window, and it doesn't happen anymore, but it's very old. And it's also used for benign prostatic hyperplasia too, for difficulty emptying your bladder, which guys on androgens get too. But yeah, super old drug actually.
Yeah, that makes sense. Nowadays, 9 out of 10 blood pressure issues, there's something better for them. I'd imagine nowadays they're pretty specific on the things, the options we have.
My blood pressure is from stimulant induced too. So off of it, my blood pressure is normal. So it's not like my arteries are stiff,
Yeah, good point, Josh. Josh was familiar with that one. It's funny, for the longest time, the first blood pressure med, instead of starting with telmisartan, I just started with Cialis years ago, and that did the trick for me. I got a really good response from
I love Cialis.
Yeah, no, I did 10 milligrams, not 5 daily, but it put me right in the perfect spot. I got benefits with the pump. Obviously never had ED issues with that kind of running around in the background.
Yeah.
So that was nice.
Yeah. Super physiological, even if without an issue,
I just love how you get such great erections with it. Not to mention good pumps at the gym, but the thing was, I feel I was taking too high of a dose because I was complaining about these stomach issues for a long time. I couldn't figure out what the problem is until one day I said, you know what? I think I'm going to stop the Cialis, and then all of a sudden my stomach issues cleared up. I was taking 10 milligrams too. It was probably too high of a dose.
Yeah. Now, did you guys ever get issues with congestion from Cialis? I get that with Viagra. If I was to use a Viagra, which just for fun pills, but that doesn't really do much for my blood pressure because it's so short acting. But I've had a lot of people say Cialis gives them congestion in the nose.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I didn't even know that till you just mentioned that. Just recently, I popped Cialis for obvious reasons. And that night, and even the next day, the next morning when I had to get my lumbar injections, they kept telling me to breathe because my face was down on the table, on the padded table, and I was trying to breathe through my nose, but I was so congested I could barely get any air up there. So I wonder if that was actually from the Cialis.
It could have been, because I hear it a lot from people. I don't, but the same scenario happens to me with Viagra. So I'll take
Oh,
Viagra
yeah.
maybe 45 minutes later or whatever after your session. You'll end up, I end up, sitting down and you get just a wicked congestion. It used to suck because I try to go throw my sleep pap on at the end of the night, and now I got a clogged nose. You're ready to fall asleep because you just got laid, and you're just like, this is no fun. Now I can't breathe.
Addicted to Afrin.
Yeah.
Then you just permanently.
Yeah. But it'd be dry. It would just be like a congestion of like pressure,
Yeah. Have you ever used this stuff?
No, I haven't. My father lives off of it, but
PSA, don't start.
that's why I don't, because he just lives off of it.
Yep.
Yeah. We use saline sometimes, just saline to cleanse things out, or the water.
If anyone is addicted to this, get the pump one, because not the pump one, the little squeeze bottle, because this makes it so you can take the whole dose. Like, it's all at once. You can't adjust it. So it's hard to stop.
Okay, we're gonna be taking a few more questions, guys, and wrapping up. We're already getting past 75-minute mark, but there's a couple here that I want to get to in advance, and then we got 2 more that I flagged that I want to get to. Let's go with Brass Bra number 8, and Dave's probably going to be able to help out a lot more on this. I'm sure Austin can too as well, but I will put this in the box in one moment. Let me just read this for those that are listening and not watching. Not that you could read it anyway, but what is the mechanism that causes the loss of muscle on GLP, GLP-1R, glucagon? If GCGR alpha is supposed to be a mechanism of catabolism that is only present in Retatrutide, which slows the highest level of muscle retention, the 3, respectfully, in my opinion, the mechanism of muscle loss is inadequate nutrition and or training.
Yeah, and I'd agree. I'd say 99 out of 100 times, muscle loss that's going to come from GLP-1s, especially Retatrutide, or the Reta that seems to be the one that you have the least amount of muscle retention issues, from what I understand when they're comparing them. It's always it really always comes down to, when you really step back and you look at all the metrics people are hopefully tracking, or at least the people I've worked with on using that. It tends to be protein consumption's low. You're in a deficit, because that's probably what we're using the GLP-1 for. Even to the point I've seen people just get temporarily deflated and never kind of fill back out, because they're not drinking their water, and then electrolytes are a little lower. And so if you're in a calorie deficit and you aren't training, like there's some people you got to imagine that are using it, that are the stay-at-home mom that's not training, that's not a bodybuilder. She's taken that to drop 20 pounds, and she's not eating protein already, and now it's even lower. And they're not training to retain muscle, which is probably going to be the best thing you can do outside of consuming your protein, is training to retain the muscle. That's what I see to be the culprit of the issue of losing muscle mass. But you also get Reta, which seems to be the one that gets the biggest weight drop. That also comes from fat loss. So there's something to be said for that as well. It's probably the most effective in the sense of fat loss, but you also see the biggest weight loss, which isn't always fat. So basics.
What's up, Charles?
Right? Yeah,
see you, brother.
If you're going to be messing around with some of these GLPs, you still need to function. You still need to repair, even if you're not training, right? Like we need protein to repair many parts of our muscle, to our organs, to our system. So that's hopefully that kind of answers the question. I don't see it being the glucagon or really kind of any of the ingredients in it, as much as just that habit that's people not eating.
I'll play here, because I have defended the side you're on staunchly before, and I still do. I'm undecided, but the thing that changes my mind is, I have said this statement before, that empirical data trumps everything. We've talked about that at Hormones for Me and stuff. Empirical data is what matters. And I have people who I know, who I speak to, who are experts. They've been coaches for 15 years, and they insist that running the same diet that they always do every year for the same vacation on a GLP-1, they lose way more muscle that one. But I'll defend the other side for a second. What are the mechanisms of losing muscle? Too high of a deficit, overtraining, low protein intake, lack of sleep.
Mhm.
Who reaches any of those except lack of sleep? Nobody, because people cheat on their diet all the time. People don't
Mhm.
train that hard. And there you go. There's the argument. GLP-1s don't cause muscle loss because we've got other causes of muscle loss. That's where I say, no, I'm not so sure, because insulin levels, fasting insulin levels in non-diabetic patients are increased during while fasted. And fasting insulin, if insulin's higher and you're not eating and you're fasted, what's going to happen? Glucagon goes up. Otherwise, you're going to go hypoglycemic.
Mhm.
Glucagon is what it is. It's a catabolic hormone. It catabolizes amino acids out of muscle tissue. How much does it matter? And how much is it offset by insulin, if we're taking that, growth hormone, if we're taking that, steroids, if we're taking that? In practice, people grow on GLP-1s all the time, but I want to talk to them and I want to see if anyone's done a careful A/B, because like serious guys who I've talked with, they've mentioned it, that it happens reliably, but I'm undecided,
Well,
All right,
anyone I've ever
go
had,
ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, anyone I've ever had that are covering those bases that you just talked about, that contribute to catabolism. If we cover those bases, I usually don't have much of an issue retaining muscle anyhow. So I don't see what other mechanisms going on with the Retta itself to cause any, so it just always, all roads keep pointing back to probably the malnutrition sense, in undertraining or not having some other stimulus to retain muscle. And then people that say like, hey, I ran diet A last year and then I ran diet A again this year. We've come to find out people are, unless you are exact and you are foolproof with tracking your metrics of diet, people under and over report, usually very much so under report. So make sure you're comparing apples to apples as well. Not saying that, I know if I track my diet, it's exact to the gram. But you know what I'm getting to. People have to make sure, are you sure that it's the same scenario, same case, same diet? Because you're also a different person. So sometimes same diet doesn't work a year later because you're a different person.
Agreed. My deficit has never been the same each time I've done it, because my weight keeps going up and my metabolism keeps going up a lot. Yeah. So, there's that. But I really want to get him on. I feel bad. Guys, go hit up Alec Matrevsky.
It's going to be great. We'll get him on.
Tell him to come on, because he's I've disagreed with him about things, and certain things, and him with me, but he knows his stuff. So if anyone's gonna show me something, and shout out dihydroboldenone, I wasn't gonna try that if it weren't for him, if it weren't for and it not being toxic.
We're gonna have to do an episode talking about DHB.
But anyway, I'm undecided on it still, but
I
lean, I don't know, actually.
All right, guys, if you could hit that like button out there, it'd be greatly appreciated. Start dropping comments on the comment board. We're going to take just another question or two. I want to get this one from Charles, former friend and former colleague at H4M. He has a question here about acne. He says, hey, guys, can you comment on acne breakouts associated with using low-dose injectable Anadrol, 2 milligrams per day, 5 days a week, and I get bad breakouts on my scalp? Oh, that sucks. I hate it when that happens.
Solvents, maybe? I don't know.
That was the first thing I was going to go to. Would be the, usually you're going to have a carrier is a carrier, but the solvents involved with creating an injectable product with Anadrol or Dianabol is going to be a little different.
You don't need to have solvents for it, but depending on the concentration, and most of them use it. Most of them do use solvents. Right. It's just not technically required. There are some, but Yeah, it depends. Look at concentration, I would say, and then talk about or think about trying it another way or something. See if it's anadrol or just injectable anadrol.
Yeah, and sounds silly, but the oil. So it could be sometimes. I like trying to mix. If I was to use injectable anadrol, I'm typically trying to mix it with some of my other testosterone or another oil. And you'd think it wouldn't make much of a difference, but that oil depot stays there for a while in that area. And what concentration or makeup of the oil depot can play a difference on how somebody absorbs it, their reaction to it. So having it somewhat diluted with something you're more familiar with, like your testosterone or whatever products you're using, anabolic oils, that you're gonna, sometimes mixing them does help. It certainly does. I mean, you can eliminate PIP a little bit from some of like these, like oil Winstrol definitely helps mixing it in with some of my testosterone to get a little less PIP. Some of the bases that are oil that are not suspension still, that are not water-based still can help with PIP. So maybe try that if you do some thinking on how you're going to administer it. Maybe you can mix it in with some of your tests and see if that helps, or just dilute it with a carrier oil that's suitable. That's one possible thing.
Okay. Let's see here. I wanted to get to this here in one of the advanced questions, number 9, Austin, because we've been talking about insulin and whatnot, and then we're going to be wrapping it up, guys. Thank you, everybody, for coming out, but let's take this question first. I'll put it in the box in one moment. Okay, insulin might not improve. Actually, let me copy this and put it in the box. It's already in the box. What am I doing? All right, let's get it up there. Okay. Insulin might not improve digestion of complex carbs, but if someone has compromised digestive system, then as a temporary solution, couldn't they shift towards simple carbs, such as fruit juice, while leveraging insulin at this doesn't require digestion? That way, while they fix the digestive issues, they can still at least absorb carbs.
So yeah, insulin speeds up gut transit time, so it could.
I'd be curious if they're on any GLPs as well. And sometimes they have different reactions because the slowing of the gut motility of GLP to different foods. All of a sudden, a food that worked for a while seems to give troubles to some people, I've noticed, on GLP. So a just secondary question would be, does this coincide with using a GLP at the same time? I'd be always wanting to fix the digestive problem first and foremost, because you really want to look at your blood as a highway for the glucose to get to its destination to be stored. And any implication, and then the insulin is going to be the siren that lets you pass everybody to get the glucose to its destination in the blood highway analogy I'm trying to use here. But any slowing of the digestion is not going to free up that highway. If anything, you want to just try to clean it up the best you can so you don't have a parking lot in that highway. So whether that's speeding up the absorption through forcing things with insulin, or maybe you have some food that you're starting to build a intolerance to, or I'm always going to err on the side of the true solution is in the digestion, not how to use the Band-Aid perfectly, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Good with the highway analogy too.
But he does say temporary solutions. So, I mean, try to circle both wagons at the same time. But if you do well with fruit juice, I mean, you shouldn't even need much insulin anyways. You're going to get quite a big glycemic response and insulin response just by having a faster sugar. You'll probably digest it quick and easier too. But be careful on the other side of that sword. The other edge is the more sugars we put in play, the more inflammatory we're going to be in that digestive system now. Maybe we're stoking the fire of a digestive problem in the first place.
Yeah. And you got inflammatory stuff going on, immune dysregulation, if you got that going on too, which is all stuff you don't want anyway. So,
yeah.
All right, we're going to take this last one here. I'll go ahead. You finish up, Dave, please.
I was just going to say, I'm curious. I've never even had that thought to use insulin to improve digestion. I mean, I don't look at it as like, I look at it as sometimes like a forceful matter. Like I can force more digestion of carbohydrates than I probably would like supersaturation, but it usually doesn't make it an easier process unless I'm missing something. Anyways, I should have just
Yeah,
thought of that.
no, right. If in a mass building phase, that is like the slowing down factor. Like I will not feel hungry anymore, like at a certain point of being in a mass phase. So like if he means in that sense,
Mhm.
you know, then for sure, like I require it to eat the levels that I've like gotten up to, you know.
Do you
7
implement MK or any other ghrelin agonist when you
I-
are in a bulk?
I have tried it and it is effective for that reason.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I even felt like my partitioning was better too. My not felt, it measurably was actually, which is the opposite of what you'd expect with MK677.
Yeah, I love MK677. Oh my gosh. But you know, after like a couple months, it doesn't seem to work so well anymore.
Oh, okay. I see.
For me, anyway. For me, you know, everybody's different. But I want to take this last one, Austin, and then we're gonna say goodnight to everybody. Appreciate everybody for coming out. This is a super fun stream. We had a good crowd tonight. Dave shared it on his channel as well, which was a big help. Let's see, what do we got here? This one here is, wouldn't a higher dose of injectable E2 be required with Primo compared to DHB, given that Primo has a stronger suppressive effect on estradiol levels? Good question.
Oh, we went over this one actually, but no, it doesn't. It doesn't.
We did go over this?
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
we did.
because so the
Oh, my bad.
aromatization is the factor with Primo. So you can take injectable estradiol, Primo, and letrozole, and you won't have
Right, I remember now. My bad. I'm sorry, guys.
That's all good.
Okay. Then let's see what we got here. Last one, and this is it, guys. We're out of here after this from a whole lot of PRs. Nice. Just added DECA and EQ to replace my NPP and my test NPP cycle. When should I expect to feel them? Knowing it takes a while to reach steady state.
Well, depending on what dose, I mean, a few days, half a week, depending on the dose. Because you've just gone from an estrogenic environment with tested NPP to potentially being a nuked estrogen environment with the EQ added. So you'll notice it before.
Yeah.
Yeah, and be on the look for noticing the result rather than feeling some sort of result. I know that sounds hippy dippy to say, but just like don't expect a feeling. Look for what happens. What is the direct effect of introducing DECA into the cycle, and look for those things, and you'll be able to kind of notice when it's picking up. Plus, we also know, you know, these the timing of esters, so we can kind of figure out blood serum concentrations and when they're going to reach peak doses. There's also my steroidplotter.com, where you can get a rough idea from administration practices to when you're going to feel the compound. But it'll probably be a little quicker than you think. You know, that MPP is still going to, even though it's a quick compound, it takes a little time to fully get out. EQ is going to hang around for a while. You're probably better off not letting them overlap too much anyhow. Yeah, I'd say you're probably right. What, a few weeks for full serum concentration.
Yeah, I think I feel it like less than that, like when I start to feel it anyway. But like for sure for steady state, I don't know. I think esters are weird. I think they hype that stuff more than they actually last.
Yeah, don't worry too much about it. It'll be in there.
Right.
You know, keep your training going, keep your food going. You got to test backbone in there. You know, you're going to do just fine. Sometimes it's good to get that little relief in the middle of a cycle. It is what it is.
Yeah. That's it.
Good point.
So it was awesome having you on, Dave. Again, I mean, you're always a good
Appreciate it.
time. You're such a relatable guy. You know, you're genuine. It's fun to have you on. And I really applaud what you're doing at Coach's Corner. That's going to blow up. And I'm hoping that maybe Austin can collab with you one night or one day whenever you are on the schedule. That'd be great.
Just going to ask him backstage. So we'll talk. We got to get Austin on, and that'd be great. Yeah. I mean, you're both welcome. Everybody come on. It's It's just kind of laid back show, and that's
I was watching it.
my
I
goal.
think it was, when was it? Sunday? I think you're on.
We
it
do
was just
we do
recently.
calls on. We
Oh
do
no, it was
calls
last
on
night.
Sunday.
Last night
Yeah,
I saw you.
yeah, and
That's
we
what it was.
do mine live on Wednesdays at 7 on the Blue
Oh,
Collar
okay.
Bodybuilding channel.
Everyone loves Dave, says Dave.
Appreciate it, man.
Looking
There's
forward to
another
having you on,
Dave,
brother.
good man in my
He-
book, Dave, and Dave.
He's another one I clicked with like right away. The moment we started talking, we talked for an hour. The only reason, usually it's 20 minutes. The only reason why we got off the phone is because my wife came home with the groceries. I saw he was on Mike's podcast too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Dave. He's doing his because he was doing his transformation story, and Mike's helping out people. You know, he's with his transformation, and he's done so. He helps overweight people, get back in shape and have a better relationship with food and all that. So Dave's a great guy. He's a good dude, and he bought all his podcasting equipment, so we're going to put him to use. So thanks again. All the links are in the description box, guys. Please sub up to Dave's channel. Okay, help him out. All of us small channels are working hard trying to get going, and I'm going to start implementing a lot of changes here as far as how we get this channel growing properly in 2026. I just haven't had the time because I've been absolutely freaking swamped, but that's going to be changing in the weeks and months ahead as well. So Austin, I'm going to say good night to everybody here in the chat. Thanks for coming out, and I'm going to pass it off to you to say good night.
Oh, me? Okay.
Yep.
Guys, thank you for coming. Remember, anyone who's here, what I said about addressing all of you, the stuff we talk about on Discord or in forums, get an experiment going, and then let's talk about it and share it here and do a recurring thing. And reach out to me directly. My email's in the chat. You guys probably know my Instagram, parabolic_33. That. And then we'll probably just end up talking on the phone at some point too. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate all of you.
Awesome.
No one's as hot as Austin, says Gary. But Dave's hot too. We know that.
All right.
Nobody ever gives me any compliments. Come on.
Eric, you're a
freaking
fine
bullshit.
piece of ass, Eric.
Thank
me.
you. Thank you for that.
You're doing all right.
Good. Dave's hitting on me. I'm good now.
He's easy
all right, guys. We'll see you.
He's easy on the eyes.
All right. So we'll see you guys next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m. Pacific. Dave Perez will be here and possibly another guest. We'll have to see what pops up. We're moving along. Don't worry about it. I'll be in touch with the people that I'm looking to get in touch with. You have a wonderful night. Thanks again. Have a great weekend.